The reason we're not activated is because we're not paying attention to ourselves. That's what I see in a lot of people who are not activated, and they're hesitating, they're losing the timing, or they're doubting, and they're losing leadership, is they're not paying attention to themselves. They're not paying attention to themselves. And the more that you pay attention to yourself, the more activated you're going to become. And in the way that activation also will create a friction, you're gonna feel a little bit uncomfortable, because when you're activated, and you say the raising Kundalini, the raising of consciousness, dropping into yourself. When you're dropping into yourself, you're becoming more sensitized, right? You're becoming more sensitized. And what will happen is, when you're activated, when you pay attention to yourself, you're going to look around and see, wait a minute, what kind of friend group is this? Wait a minute, why am I bored? Wait a minute, maybe I need to change up my routine, right? Or you're gonna be pulled to this unresolved relationship. You're gonna be pulled to have leadership. You're gonna be pulled to stand up for yourself. When you're activated, you start to develop the charisma of the heart, right? Where it just becomes an enjoyable experience to think highly of yourself, basically, or to work towards living a more balanced life, right? It actually becomes quite enjoyable. Even in the failure, even in, the failing of a business, right? Or in setback, in whatever, emotionally, financially, it could even be, the loss of a loved one. Death, birth, rebirth, resurrection becomes enjoyable, right? So when that Pluto comes around us, which, Pluto is a very intense planet, it's that Scorpio energy, right? When Pluto comes around us, and we know something's going down that's going to be very transformative, we're activated, so we're equipped to handle it, right? Because we're paying attention to ourselves. We're paying attention to ourselves. Therefore, when we see that challenge that is an opportunity, death, birth, rebirth, resurrection, we're equipped for it. We can handle it because we're paying attention to ourselves. And really, what is our spiritual fulfillment? Because that is really what activation is about. It's about wish fulfillment. It's about spiritual fulfillment, right? And then getting to know yourself and what that is for you, right? So the reason we're not activated is because we're not paying attention to ourselves, right? And that means we need to build up that natural rhythm we have when we're 9 years old, which is this fearless acceptance of self in all of what is going on with the self, not just the light and the love, right? And that gives this great wonder. And when we have wonder, regardless of what age we are, that wonder is that great fuel for self-discovery, self-expression, that for the creative mind, it enhances your imagination, your ability to visualize. It also works with self-psychology, right? Where you're looking at self and other, like looking in the mirror, and you're learning your habits, your patterns, your life, and the way you're connecting with yourself throughout you waking up 6 a.m., going to, bed at 8 p.m., right? You're getting to see, right? You're paying attention. And I think that is the great activation that we have, is when we really do want to connect with ourselves. And in this planet Earth, right, we can get very timid with connecting with ourselves. We can get very hesitant, doubtful, fearful. We can get a lot of anxiety about connecting with ourselves. But when we work on being activated, and activated is not it's not a nostalgic, sentimental, it's not about sympathy. Activation is about you moving the energy. And I said, that's what I'm talking, sometimes when we're in this therapy and we're talking about the problems all day long and just problems, is not the activation I'm talking about. When you're moving the energy in yourself, that's different, because you can have a sort of a therapy with yourself and you're not moving the energy, right? You're just you're chewing on it, but you won't swallow it. Therefore, you're not actually moving it through you. You're just kind of playing around with it, right? And then there's the moving the energy. And that's when we're starting to tap into our creative power, right? Our creative force, right? That's when we're starting to really learn our rhythm and learn our expansion in life, right? Our expansion in life, our excellence life, the movement of our life, or the movement of change, right? The movement of death, birth, rebirth, and resurrection. And our process of that, which will be different, right, than other people's process. Some people, the movement of change is really easy, steady going, and some people it's like, right, it's death, birth, rebirth, resurrection is they're very courageous with that, right, because they have a very pronounced heart frequency. So when we're working with that heart frequency, the heart frequency is also about emotional maturity, right? When you pay attention to yourself, you start to emotionally mature. When you don't pay attention to yourself, you start to, you can become, that heart frequency, that heart frequency, without the leadership, it doesn't really expand the way that you want it to. And many people are desiring and demanding, and I want it so bad for my heart energy to expand, because when that expands, everything about you starts, the movement of you becomes a lot more activated. The creativity is more activated. So that is many reasons why we're not activated, is because we need to pay attention to ourselves, what we're doing. A lot of people, again, they're timid. They'd rather not look and pay attention, and but in that emotional immaturity, you see people, it doesn't really go anywhere. The movement that we really want, that activation, is birth, or death, birth, rebirth, and resurrection. That really gives us that movement of flow, where we can really step into the spiritual flourishing, right? Like the seasons of birth and the seasons of death and rebirth and resurrection, that will bring us a lot more color, a lot more vitality, a lot more potency, and just a lot more of this emotional charisma, I would say.